Ayana always thought her life would be just a series of anonymous days, passing by in silence with nothing memorable. She lived in a small village, where dreams were often suffocated by poverty and the rigid rules of society. But then, one day, a stranger arrived, with eyes full of mystery and few words, yet those words had the power to change everything. Elliot Langston was not only the one who saved her from her fate, but also the one who offered her a chance to not only live, but to change the lives of girls like her. In the arms of a stranger, Ayana began a journey she had never dared to imagine. If you find this story interesting and want to learn more about unexpected and inspiring journeys, don't forget to like, share this video, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on the next exciting content. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think about these life-changing decisions. Outside, a small crowd had gathered, women whispering, men looking away. They all knew what was about to happen. She was about to marry Elliot Langston, a white man nearly 6 times her age, a 70-year-old stranger from another world, another country, another life. A man who barely spoke the local language, with silver hair, cold eyes, and a handshake that sent shivers down her spine. But he had money, and Ayana's family had none. 2 weeks ago, her younger brother fell ill, feverish, shivering, and having uncontrollable seizures. The clinic refused to admit him without payment. Her mother had begged, pleaded, even sold Ayana's sewing machine, her wedding ring, and even Ayana's textbooks, but it still wasn't enough. When Elliot arrived, he was staying at a private lodge on the mountain, a wealthy American investor. They said no one knew why he was in their area. He wasn't a missionary, he didn't talk about God or charity, but he had cash. And when he saw Ayana walking barefoot through the market to buy medicine with spare change, something in his gaze lingered. The next day, he appeared at their home with a marriage proposal large enough to cover her brother's medical expenses and leave enough money for rent, food, and clothing for a year. Her mother refused, screaming and throwing things, but by nightfall, her brother's fever had worsened. They had no other choice, and Ayana, barely past her childhood, whispered the words, "I'll do it." The ceremony was very small. Her grandmother tied a thin string of beads around her neck. Elliot wore an expensive black suit and smiled gently. He didn't say anything, only nodded in agreement when the elder asked him if he would take Ayana as his wife. She didn't say anything. No kiss. Just a nod. And then silence. That night, Ayana sat on the edge of a clean bed in a strange guest house. Elliot sat across from her, reading a book in a language she couldn't understand. He didn't come close, didn't touch her, just handed her a bowl of soup and said, "You should eat." That was the first time he spoke directly to her, his voice soft, too soft, leaving her confused. That night, he slept in the room next door, locking the door between them. From his side, Ayana woke up, holding a picture of her brother and wondering, what does he want from me if not what others are whispering? The days that followed were the strangest in Ayana's young life. She had expected cruelty, obedience, silence, but instead Elliot treated her like glass, not out of pity, but because she was precious. He gave her a room of her own, brought her clean, soft-colored dresses, served her tea every day at 4:00 p.m. with honey and a small cookie wrapped in linen. He never touched her. He never raised his voice. He never looked at her the way others had, and somehow that made everything worse. She didn't know what to expect anymore. On the third night, she peeked through the slightly open door of the library. He was there as usual, sitting in the brown armchair, reading under the soft glow of an old lamp. But this time she noticed something strange. He was staring at the mirror, unshaven, hair uncombed, just staring. His face looked tired, paler than usual, and his lips trembled lightly, as if whispering something in his breath that Ayanna couldn't hear. She stepped back, and the next morning, Elliot invited her to walk with him along the trail in the forest behind the inn. He handed her a pair of boots, a scarf, and a notebook. "You should write," he said, "even if it's just your thoughts." Ayanna squinted, wondering why. "Because stories make everything meaningful." He paused, then quietly added, "And I think you'll soon need that." The way he said it made it seem like he knew something she didn't. She didn't feel cold. On the 5th day, Ayanna noticed something different. Elliot kept a locked room at the end of the hallway, a heavy wooden door with a brass handle that wouldn't turn. She asked once, and he gave her a faint smile. "Some doors aren't ready to be opened yet." But Ayanna was no longer a child. She had been poor. She had witnessed death. She had said goodbye to innocence the day she wore a wedding dress meant for someone 3 times her age. So that night when Elliot went into town, she unlocked it from the inside. She found a secret museum. Photographs hung on the walls, children, dozens of pictures from different countries. Some were smiling, some were not. Each one with a date below the frame, some with an X marking the date, some without. In the corner of the room, a wooden chest sat, filled with more notebooks and letters. She pulled one out. "Dear Marisol, you're probably 17 now. I still think about you, your laughter, and I hope you still keep the violin. I'm sorry I left so soon again. Read this to Chica. The stars are always brightest when you sing. I hope you find your mother. I hope you still sing and once again bloom. Just a week old. To Ayanna, you don't know yet, but you will. I just hope I live long enough to see you smile." Her breath caught in her throat as she gripped the paper tightly, eyes wide open. Why was her name here? Why did he write a farewell letter to her before she even found it? She turned around and almost screamed. Elliot was standing in the doorway. He had come back early, his expression not angry, just tired. "I guess it's time for you to know," he said. Ayanna held the letter tightly to her chest. "Know what?" Elliot leaned against the doorframe, sighing. "That I didn't marry you for me," he said. "I married you for you." Ayanna stood frozen in the dimly lit room, still holding the letter he had written to her. The air was heavy with the scent of cedarwood and something else, faint memories fading. Elliot stepped into the room and gently closed the door behind him. He didn't scold her for unlocking the door. He didn't ask why. Instead, he walked over to one of the photos on the wall, a picture of a girl in a yellow dress, smiling, arms wide beneath a cherry blossom tree. "Her name was Amira," he said softly, "from Morocco. She had a stutter, but when she read poetry, you would swear it was God speaking through her." He smiled, but the smile didn't last long. She passed away at 14 from malaria. Her village had no clean water. He pointed to another photo of a girl from southern China, abandoned as a newborn. "I paid for her surgery. She wanted to be a nurse. She didn't make it either." Ayanna's mouth trembled. "All of these girls, were they your wives?" "No," he said firmly. "They were all daughters. I found girls in danger, girls who were sold, forgotten, abandoned. I didn't marry any of them." He turned back to face her. "You're the first." Ayanna squinted. "Then why me?" Elliot walked over to a small chair, sitting down with a sigh that sounded like it carried 70 years of regret. "Because you were always going to have to marry, you just didn't know it yet." Her heart sank as he continued. "I heard rumors in the village about a Russian businessman, a foreigner, who buys wives under the table, girls even younger than you. Your family is in debt, and he'll approach your mother with an offer." Ayanna staggered in response. "You're lying. I wish I were him." His voice was slightly hoarse. "I knew I only had 2 choices. Either let that man come to you first, or get there before he does. Ayanna stared at the walls. This isn't spoils of war. These are monuments to the next hour. Elliot shared everything with her, how he spent all of yesterday. For 20 years he traveled the world searching for vulnerable girls in desperate situations, orphans, street children, abandoned daughters, and did what little he could. Sometimes he paid for their education. Sometimes he built wells and villages. Sometimes he legally adopted them. Other times, the system made it impossible. So, he worked quietly, without recording anything. Ayanna interrupted once. Why not use your money to publicly build an organization, a school, since you're so rich? He smiled bitterly. I sold most of it to fund these missions, but even money has its limits. When the law protects the powerful and punishes the poor, I soon learned that the only way to reach girls like you, trapped in places the world has forgotten, was to go there myself, he said, looking her directly in the eyes. I married you because it was the only way I could buy time to protect you, to give you a choice you would never have had. That night, Ayanna couldn't sleep. She sat by the window, her legs drawn up to her chest. The letter was still in her hand, and she thought about the life she had almost lived. About the quiet American man who offered her a contract instead of a command. A pin instead of a cage, a choice instead of chains. And she realized something that made her chest ache. He hadn't saved her because he had to. He saved her because no one else would. The next morning, Elliot didn't have breakfast. He wasn't lounging in the garden. He wasn't in the library. Ayanna knocked on his bedroom door, but there was no answer. Her hands trembled as she slowly opened the door. He lay there, lying on his side peacefully, still in his pale robe, silent, gone. Later, the doctors would say it was congestive heart failure. He had known it was coming, which was why he had come to her country. If this story has sparked your curiosity, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of our videos. Don't forget to share it with your friends and family so you can explore these surprising stories together. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. That's why he moved faster than usual. That's why he chose her. He had passed away and didn't want to leave this world without giving the last girl a second chance. Inside the drawer of his nightstand, Ayanna found a sealed envelope addressed to her. It read, Ayanna, if you're reading this, I have passed, but it's okay. I have lived my life. Now it's time for you to live yours. You will find the documents in the study. Your name is now on everything I own, land, property, savings. But most importantly, what I leave for you is not money but freedom. Don't waste it. For the first time she cried, not out of fear, but out of love. News of Elliot Langston's death spread quickly, first as a whisper among the staff, a call to a lawyer in the city. Then it spread like wildfire throughout the village. People arrived at the front gate with flowers, hands clasped, holding questions they didn't dare ask aloud. But what no one expected was the will. In the days that followed, a lawyer arrived in a black car holding a sealed portfolio. Inside was a notarized will, legally binding. Ayanna, just 12 years old, was listed as the sole heir of Elliot. The villagers were stunned. Some whispered blessings, while others muttered curses. Her mother fainted in the yard. The elders met in secret. Children only peered from the alleys. How could that girl own land? She was just a poor, nameless child. Last week, he had only married her to trick the system. It was magic. But Ayanna said nothing. She didn't say a word. She didn't cry. She didn't run. She simply listened quietly, just as Elliot once did. Inside the hut, she sat. Her story had been recorded with stillness and the transformation of a life, protected not by chains, but by the freedom she had never known. The changes came from unexpected encounters and from the opportunities she could now grasp. In the library alone, she read the books he had once read, ate the soup he had once made for her. The silence was deafening, but she no longer minded. Elliot's lawyer, a woman named Ms. Barrow, returned on the third day with a stack of documents. "There's enough money for you to live on until college and beyond," she said gently. "You don't have to decide anything right now, but we will need to appoint a legal guardian to oversee the assets until you're of age." Ayanna looked up. "Do I have to go?" "No," Ms. Barrow answered, surprised. "This house is yours. Elliot made it clear that you can stay for as long as you want." Ayanna sat down, the truth hitting her in waves. She had her own bed, her own books, her own key, and now her own decisions to make. The first decision she made left everyone stunned. She reopened Elliot's accounting books and instructed Ms. Barrow to withdraw a portion of his remaining funds, not for herself, but for the children in the village. She ordered the clinic, which had once turned away her brother, to be repaired. She built a school where she had once sold herbs in the dust and quietly directed that any girl under the age of 14 could not marry according to the law. If they did, they would be reported to a new registry agency managed by her estate. Some called her dangerous, others called her cursed, but some began to call her by another name. The girl returned with a fire in her heart one afternoon. Ayanna, alone, walked to the cemetery at the edge of town. She carried with her a picture frame, the one Elliot had cherished most. The picture frame, which featured a mirror under the tree, was placed beside his new stone. She whispered, "You were never my husband. You were never even my father." She knelt down, her eyes full of silent strength. "You were my beacon." The wind blew through the trees. Weeks passed, then months. The wooden house became not just a home, but a sanctuary. A place where young girls could read, where they could sleep without fear. A place where they could heal their wounds. A girl named Fatima, 9 years old, had been rescued from a forced marriage. A girl named Benta, only 11, had escaped an abusive uncle. They found their way to the gates of Ayanna's home, and Ayanna welcomed them in, not as a queen, not as a savior, but as one of them. Then one rainy evening, Ayanna found one last envelope hidden inside one of Elliot's books, with the simple words written on it. "If they come looking for you, don't be afraid." She slowly opened it. Inside was a list of names, dates, addresses, dozens of men, government officials, diplomats, criminals. Some of them were tied to child marriages, trafficking, and the underground world. Elliot had quietly fought for decades. He didn't just save girls, he had documented the monsters of the heart. Ayanna slammed her hand down on the end of the letter. His final handwritten words. "Use your voice, Ayanna. Burn the darkness. They can't kill the light when it knows who it is." And that was when she made her second decision. She would not only build houses, she would build a movement. A year later, the world knew her name. Ayanna Langston was no longer the child bride in a forgotten village, but a global voice for girls like her. Her story spread when a journalist from Lagos came to investigate rumors about a 12-year-old girl inheriting the fortune of a foreign man. What they found wasn't just headlines, they found a revolution. Ayanna was not only taller, but stronger as well. Her voice still soft, but now when she spoke, pastors listened. When she wrote, people shared. When she entered the courtroom, human traffickers recoiled at the list of names Elliot had compiled and the help of Ms. Barrow. Ayanna published the Langston Report, a chilling, detailed document exposing international child marriage networks. Officials accepting bribes, villages auctioning off girls behind closed doors. Some tried to silence her. They threatened, hacked, lied, but it was too late. Because Elliot didn't just leave her a house, he also left her evidence. He had left her a plan, and most importantly, he had left her an army of survivors. Teachers, silent donors from his previous work, were now inspired to speak out, stand firm, and fund her future. At 14, Ayanna spoke at the United Nations. At 15, she helped change laws in 3 African countries, making child marriage under the age of 16 punishable by international law. And by the age of 16, she returned to her village without guards or cameras, standing alone in front of the school she had built. Around her, girls laughed, studied, and lived. She smiled. "I used to fear silence," she told them. "Now I know silence is where we thrive." A girl raised her hand. "Are you a queen now?" Ayanna laughed. "Many queens wear crowns." She lightly tapped her temple. "I carry the fire." That night, she sat in Elliot's old library, now filled with more books, more drawings, and more letters from the girls she had saved. She lit a candle, wrote in her journal, and whispered to the night, "I hope you can see me now." A breeze swept through the room, and for just a moment, she could swear she heard Elliot's voice. "I always have." The story of the young girl and her 70-year-old husband is not just a tragic and unexpected tale, but also a profound lesson about greed, deception, and what lies hidden behind seemingly perfect exteriors. Although the marriage initially appeared to be a dream come true, the truth is not always easy to accept. The girl faced the darker aspects of life, and in her journey, she discovered the inner strength to confront the challenges ahead. This story also serves as a reminder to always remain vigilant and aware in relationships, because sometimes secrets can never stay hidden forever, and the truth will eventually come to light.